Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the special Advent edition of the Passion Daily podcast. And we're looking at the 12 fights of Christmas, the adversity in Advent. And we're going to jump right back in where we left off in 1 John chapter 3, beginning in verse 8. It says, "Whoever makes a practice of sinning is of the devil, for the devil has been sinning from the beginning. And the reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the works of the devil. No one born of God makes a practice of sinning, for God's seed abides in him, and he cannot keep on sinning, because he's been born of God." We talked yesterday about the reality that Jesus' arrival on the planet was a landed invasion. The Son of God appeared to destroy the works of the devil, that into our darkness a light has come. But that brings a natural question. How does he destroy it? And particularly in my life, if you're wrestling with a darkness of discouragement, a darkness of fear, a darkness of addiction, if the weight of your sin is sinking you, how is the advent of Jesus good news? Well, he destroyed the works of the devil, it says in this passage, by his appearing. That Jesus' space-time arrival on the planet was a landed invasion. And you see it in his ministry. If you've read the Gospels, demons shouting, screaming his arrival. Why? Because the stronger one is here. And yet his full defeat of the enemy at that advent came on the cross, where he who knew no sin became sin for us. Paul will talk about it, that Jesus made a public spectacle of the enemy by taking the decrees that were hostile against us and nailing them to the cross. The enemy's greatest weapon against you and me is the right accusation that we have sinned that's worthy of condemnation. Jesus took that document, nailed it to himself on the cross, all your sin and mine paid for on the cross. And so the great weapon of the enemy was knocked out of his hand. The space-time arrival of Jesus on the planet was how he destroyed the works of the devil, that the penalty of sin has been broken by the arrival of Jesus. And yet it's interesting in 1 John, that's not the advent that he really focuses on in the next verse. He says Jesus appeared to destroy the works of the devil. That's why he came to the planet. But then he says, no one born of God makes a practice of sinning, for God's seed abides in him. He cannot keep on sinning because he's been born of God. There's a second advent that leads to the breaking of the power of sin in our life. And it's not just the advent of Jesus on the earth, it's the advent of the grace of Jesus into you and into me. The moment that we are born of God is what John says. He uses family imagery. That when a child is born, they look like their parents. And they don't look like their parents in order to become the child of their parents. They look like their parents because they're from their parents. I tell the story of my oldest daughter when she was a little kid. I came home from work one day. She was maybe 2 or 3, and I opened the door, and she was standing there in her little feety pajamas with a pacifier in her mouth, and she just popped it out and went, "What's up, what's up?" I was like, "Who taught you to talk like that?" And my wife said, "Are you serious? You did. You say that to her all the time, and she naturally says it back to you." My second daughter, Sparrow, looks like me, and she doesn't look like me in the hopes of one day becoming a Stuart. She looks like me because she is. Something of me abides in her, and it makes her more like me. And what this passage is saying here is that when Jesus arrived, he broke the power of canceled sin. And then there's a second advent, a second arrival. And it's when he comes into your life and mine. When you put your faith in Jesus, the imagery John grabs here is you are born again. And God's seed abides in you. And you don't keep on sinning. That when you put your faith in him, his seed abides in you. Something of God is now in you. That's why Jesus came. That's how he breaks the power of sin in your life and mine. He puts his very DNA in you through the Holy Spirit of God, and you begin to look more and more like him. Will you be perfect right away? No, because there's a third advent where Jesus will come again to wipe out the very presence of sin. And yet until that day, even now, you and I can put our faith in Jesus and see the reason Jesus was born at Christmas was to break sin's power. And the way he does it in your life and mine is when we're born again through faith in Jesus. Jesus was born at Christmas so you could be born of God. And one of the greatest gifts this Christmas season would be for you to put your faith in Him and then believe what this passage is saying, that when I put my faith in Him, the power of sin in my life is broken. There's still a fight on our hands, and yet my deepest DNA is now I am a child of God, and I will begin to look more and more like Him because His seed abides in me. So let's thank God today that Jesus went to war for us and purchased a family that looks more and more like Him because of His grace at work in us. Jesus was born at Christmas so you could be born again. Do you know Him? The gift is on the table for you today to put your faith in our warrior King, Jesus.